Greetings and welcome to Eye Care Leadership Live. This is the podcast for eye care leaders who want to level up their leadership, create better cultures, and improve the financial results of their clinics. Now, let's join the show. Okay, we're recording and we're live out there. So yeah, my guest here today, everyone, welcome to Eye Care Leadership Live. I'm Mike, you know me, I'm always here, but sometimes I have a guest, and today's guest is Jennifer Church Kilkenny. Jennifer, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me here.
I love talking with marketing people because if you don't get the word out about your clinic, no one will ever know that it exists. And so it's really important to get the word out. And I find I just always enjoy talking to marketing people. They've got great ideas. And you've been doing this for a little while. You work in the healthcare space, but maybe that's a good place to start. Can you just tell me and for the folks listening, what types of clients you work with and what you do for them?
Primarily, I work with aesthetic medical practices, so plastic surgery, oculoplastics, medical spas, dermatology. But I do have the occasional vascular surgeon, gynecologic surgeon, cosmetic dentist, and even more so now, those other specialties, because they're all opening up medical spas. So that's kind of where where my sweet spot is.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, so many med spas opening up, which is interesting because it just seems as though the consumer-driven side of healthcare has grown a lot, and that's where marketing really can. I would think that's where it can come in. That you're trying to speak to the discretionary spending. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Especially when it comes to practices that have largely been focused on purely medical and insurance-based care. A lot of the time they will contact us and say, insurance isn't paying out like it used to. We're opening this cosmetic cash side of the practice, or we've already had this cosmetic cash side and it's just not doing as well as it needs to.
Yeah.
And so we come in, we help them grow so that their profitability goes up.
That's good. That's what we want. We want that profitability to go up. And we're streaming the show live here, and people can comment. We did have a comment from Amy Ford saying, "Hi, Amy." She's out there. Amy works in the clinical research world, which interestingly, it makes me think that clinical research, if you have a clinical business and you add clinical research, in a way, you're trying to market yourself. You're trying to get people to pay attention to your studies and maybe join in. Have you ever gotten involved with that type of effort to try to promote clinical research at all?
A lot of the time when it comes to clinical research, whatever our company is working with the practice to conduct the clinical research are the ones who are investing in the marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
But we always want to try to take advantage of that whenever we can. That really does increase lead potential for practices. And I've worked with dermatology clinics specifically that are very heavily involved in clinical research. And it is definitely a big boost in marketing opportunities. It's a little more difficult, though. There are a lot more restrictions.
Right.
Yeah.
50% off clinical research. Can't really do that, can you?
Not so much. But yeah, so it can be a little difficult in that regard. And we typically don't spend a lot of time in there, but we don't really have to either. It's
okay. Sure.
It's a really good way to get people through the door too.
Okay. Yeah. So I know that you do a lot of work in the social media realm when it comes to promoting clinics. If a clinic comes to you, maybe they're a dermatology business or ophthalmology, they want to grow their oculoplastics, for example, or some area that's more cosmetic or discretionary, but they haven't really done much in the world of marketing. What would be like your first couple things that you would want to find out and start looking at growing for them?
I wouldn't just look at social media.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. I'd first have like a discussion with them about what their goals are, what their immediate needs are, what their long-term goals are. See what's working, what isn't, what specifically they're looking to promote and get more people through the door for. Since we're talking about oculoplastics, why don't we just focus on the blepharoplasty for a moment? If you're trying to get more blepharoplasty patients, the first thing I would do is I would actually go and look at search trends on the internet for their local area and kind of see what people are looking for specifically and what need isn't necessarily being met in the community, and starting there. And then that would inform a lot of the marketing efforts, and both for the website and for social media. And, I'd also look at the need for new leads versus the, if it's a established ophthalmology practice, like you brought up, we would have discussions about how can we market ethically to the medical patients? Can we market to the medical patients? And if we can't, can we establish a routine in the practice where we're getting authorization from medical patients to market to them? Because it's a lot easier to convert people who already know, like, and trust you, and send out email newsletters to them and educate them about the procedures that you offer, and getting them through the door for something cosmetic than it is to convince someone brand spanking new to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a plastic surgery procedure. And in that case, we might try to get them through the door with something less costly, low risk,
Okay.
so they can experience the practice, get to know them, and then eventually scale up to something more invasive, more involved, and more expensive.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Maybe like a
Exactly.
neurotoxin injection or something like that. That's
Precisely.
more affordable. You talked about looking into what people are searching for, and this is not something I know a lot about. And so it's kind of like a voodoo thing for me. I'm like, okay, tell me more. So like, give me an example. So let's say that I'm oculoplastics and I want to find out what people are searching for. What kind of insights could I get? I'm assuming people are out there saying, how can I fix my eyelids, or I don't know, tighten up my cheeks or something? What are things that you might see that might give you clues about what to do next?
It's a very involved and time consuming thing, but that there are a lot of tools out there that tell us exactly what people are searching for.
Okay.
And it's about, narrowing it, like zoning in on the local area, and just knowing how people search for things on in search engines, knowing what questions they're asking, not just with search engines, but those large language models, the AI, ChatGPT, Claude, all of them. What questions they're asking from there, and then narrowing it down to specific key phrases that people are searching for. So some people might be searching for blepharoplasty near me, but a lot of them are searching for things like, how do I get rid of my under eye bags? Oh, my eyelids are drooping. Oh, the crow's feet are so bad.
Yeah.
And so we zero in on those kinds of trends, but then we also look at other things. So it's like, they offer other surgery procedures, maybe they also do rhinoplasty. We'll look at the trends for there too, and try to determine, again, like what need isn't being well met in the community, or if it is being met in the community, how can we differentiate? And then we'd go from there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This is something I need to learn more about. This, like, figuring out what people are searching on to kind of get into using their words, like figuring out what words are they using and trying to meet that need that they might be having. We had a question pop in from Amy, my friend Amy here. Do you think a good website and social media presence are a must-have for clinics these days? Is one more important than the other? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and yes. Your website is always your most important asset. It's the one that you own. You don't own your social media.
Ah,
Your social media account could disappear tomorrow. Social platform could disappear tomorrow. Your website should be your number one priority, and also your email list. You own that too.
yeah, the power of the email list is really big because you talked about, yeah, communicating to your existent patients, right? And trying to
Mhm.
see if you can reel them in. And I know there are certain requirements, right? You have to get them to okay that, right?
Yeah.
How do you get them to do, how do you know if they've done it yet or not? And then how do you get them to
Hmm.
agree to marketing?
Okay, that was interesting.
Kind of, we
Choose
lost
my
your,
camera.
we lost your camera feed. Oh, there
There
you
it is.
are.
Oh,
Oh,
and
and
it's
it's
gone
back out.
again. Okay, you can hear me though, so
I
it's
can hear you.
okay.
So yeah, maybe it's my
Yeah, I
fault.
don't know. So your question was
About approval to
how to
market.
get, usually that's an intake question. So during the intake process, I recommend that they do forms that include a approval for marketing, that they accept marketing messages.
Oh,
And because they all give their email address and their phone number, and they accept getting updates about their upcoming appointment. They get, and then text messaging. They want to get reminders about an appointment that's coming up, right? You're already sending those out, but that's the only thing that they have uh, given permission to do. But if you can get them to also accept marketing messaging, then yeah.
okay. So you gotta get that in writing somehow, right? You know, one of the things that I have seen with a doctor that I know in the Houston area who's a plastic surgeon is he likes to go live on TikTok. And not everyone is a TikTok user, but I like to use TikTok and I look at TikTok. And because I know him and I followed him, he pops up. And he pops up a lot, actually. And he talks about the procedures that he does. He talks about, and people ask him questions like, hey, what is a mommy makeover? What can I expect, from this kind of procedure? And he'll talk about it. He's very direct and explains all that stuff. And to me, that seems like an amazing thing to do. Are you seeing doctors doing that more and more? Do you think that going live on TikTok or Instagram is a good move? What's your take on that?
It can be, yeah, it definitely can be. And I've had a couple of clients who were able to do that, willing to do that. That's part of it, right? And it can be very beneficial. Going live, particularly on TikTok, is very beneficial. So if you're trying to grow on TikTok, a live stream is a very big deal. On Instagram, I don't see people going live as often.
Okay.
I feel like it might be happening more frequently now. And it is beneficial for the people who are already following you on Instagram because they'll see you as live at the top of their window there in their app on their phone. But going live on TikTok, you actually have a higher chance of reaching brand new people. So on Instagram, it gets pushed out to your followers more. On TikTok, it's getting pushed out to everybody because it's not just your followers who see that you're
Right.
live, but
Okay.
it also shows up in other people's feed.
Okay.
If the live is going well,
Yeah, right.
then it gets fed to other people
Yeah.
who might have an interest based on their algorithm.
Okay. This show is sponsored by Seasoned Advice HR Services, where I help eye care businesses to make more money and save more money by hiring better, retaining better, and reducing your HR risk. If you would like an HR assessment or ongoing HR support, please reach out to me at seasoned-advice.com. It's funny, I was going to pull up this guy's Instagram, but because he's a plastic surgeon, there's actually a whole bunch of graphic content on there. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to pull that up. but he does they try to infuse humor in some of these clips also, and I've seen this with many different providers. Is that something you recommend to doctors, is to make things funny, maybe get the staff involved, do some viral dance clips or whatever? Has that been useful?
I think it depends on the culture of the practice. It's a lot of people are hesitant to get involved in social media because that's what they think they have to do to succeed.
Okay.
And it really isn't. It's really about authenticity. So I've worked with practices where they were all about it, but that was their personality. And then I've seen people try to force it, and that backfires in a few different ways. Not just that it comes off as inauthentic to the viewer, but also if you manage to pull it off and you draw in people for it, they come in and they are thrown off because the culture that they encounter once they walk through the door is not what they were sold.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That makes sense. Be authentic, right? You don't want to, you don't want it to not reflect your current, your actual culture. One thing that I have recommended to practices, because I think that it's a good way to get the staff involved, is to find a staff member who's really savvy in social media and see if you can get them involved. Hey, can you create some fun content for our page to help promote the products that we sell or our procedures? And some people are really excited to run with that. Do you think it's a good idea to enlist the staff? Like, let's say that you're a physician and you're not so whatever creative. Do you think it's a good idea to enlist the staff to help with that? And what are maybe some pitfalls that can arise?
Staff should absolutely be involved because it's a team effort. The whole practice is a team effort, right? But you definitely want to have some guardrails in place and policies and procedures related to content approvals and planning content, and not so much just letting people just, oh, we're going to do this and then we're going to just post it. That it needs to be part of a larger plan most of the time. And just being careful with policies and procedures, because sometimes content goes out that the physician would not have approved. And I know you and I had a conversation about some recent examples of that.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit. So there was I think the one we talked about was I think it was an OBGYN clinic in California, I want to say, where I believe the employee posted on her personal profile. It might have been the company, but she was trying to be funny, but ended up being very off-putting, I think. And very offensive, and it was really lacking in perspective. And I can't remember if it was done on the company profile. That was definitely bad.
But if they are employees and staff, then posting about the practice on their personal profiles, most of the time I would say it's a no-go. And if it is happening, it needs to be primarily posted on the company page. If it's not going to be posted on the company page, it shouldn't go out anywhere. And so even with private social media behavior related to work, there needs to be a policy in place.
Yeah, totally agree with that. As a HR practitioner, that be really clear, because I've seen people get in trouble. And this young lady multiple people lost their jobs in this situation. And for those of you all that saw the content, you would probably understand why. And I think, maybe that's one of the risks of having a social media page that is very fun and humorous, is that maybe people might think, oh, that's kind of how we do things. And maybe I'll make a funny video on my account and share it. And so I think if you're going to be funny and humorous and stuff, you need it even more clear. Be more clear with your staff. Hey, this is funny and stuff, but that's the business. You don't post about it. And then there's HIPAA concerns and everything like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely HIPAA concerns. And when you're curating content for the practice that involves patients, more authorization forms.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to exclude the PHI
That,
from those, from those. Yeah, so we've kind of touched on social media. Let's say that, that there's an office that doesn't want to do the live thing. You've talked about how that can be beneficial. What are other things? We've talked a little bit about the newsletter. What are other things a clinic could be thinking about besides doing LinkedIn Live or TikTok lives and sending newsletters and things? Is there any other kind of tricks up the sleeve that clinics could be thinking about trying?
don't sleep on paid social media ads. They can be really beneficial, particularly with drawing people in some of those like low risk treatments
Okay.
to get people through the door. Then you wow them, and then they convert to higher procedures. As long as you have the training in place within the practice to convert people from
Okay.
those lower price procedures up to the higher price procedures. But yeah, meta ads are really great for that. Google ads are good for the higher price point. So if you're trying to just market your surgeries and things like that, Google ads are better for that because people already have the intent in place. So when I'm on Google, if I'm set an ad for blepharoplasty, it's because I'm actively searching for it. So that's a good place to have the surgery promoted via ads. On social media, and a lot of practices make this mistake. You don't want to be trying to sell people on the surgery on social media because you're interrupting their feed with something that they may or may not be interested in looking for right now. Their ready to buy mindset isn't quite there. But what they will take action on is neurotoxin, facials, peels, microneedling, sometimes even lasers, but that depends.
Okay.
But yeah, on social media ads, that's you start lower. On Google ads, start higher. Don't try to advertise for the lower price point things on Google at all. The cost per click is too high. On Meta, it's lower. So that's the strategy that I'm always telling people to use.
Wow.
If you're trying to get new leads through the door, that's what you got. That's how you have to approach it.
That's blowing my mind right now because, I don't know, for most people, maybe I like to think I'm like most people. That's probably not nearly as true as I would like it to believe, but I just think, oh, ads are ads, but that makes total sense. If I'm going on Google and I'm searching for something as specific as blepharoplasty, or maybe I might just say like, hey, can you, whatever, get rid of my wrinkles, or I don't know what. You're looking for that thing. You're much more farther down the funnel, the sales funnel,
Right.
than someone who's just like flipping through Instagram. And that seems like a genius tactic right there. I had a thought that kind of just like it went through my brain and it went right back out, but I'm sure I will I'm sure I will think about it again. Gosh, I love that.
I do.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like it was there and then it was gone. Like,
yeah.
It'll come back to me if it's really that important.
It had something to do with, grabbing people's attention in the moment there. And it had something to do with targeted ads. Because you can, on like Meta, for example, Facebook, you can drill down a little bit more, right? Like you can help to refine who sees that ad, right?
Oh yeah, and there's so many different ways that can be done in the ad dashboard in order to make sure that you're targeting the right people. Demographics in terms of interests and behaviors, because we all know that Meta's tracking us. If we're logged in, it's tracking us all over the place. And, so interests and behaviors in general are great ways to target people on Meta. Location as well. One of the things that I try to do is encourage practices to invest in some market research, their local area. The more affluent zip codes nearby. And keeping in mind how people in the area travel. Because certain parts of the country, people are willing to travel an hour to get to a practice Whereas others are like, if it's more than 10 minutes away, I'm not interested.
Mm.
And so it like really depends on the culture of where we are in the country. And so this is information that I get from my clients about behaviors of like, how far is your farthest client away from your practice? And how far are they typically on average? And then looking at the more affluent zip codes, if we can zero in on those. Yeah. And that depends on the goals of the practice as well. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways that we can target people within Meta. But then there's also some things that as great as they are for marketing, we cannot use them. And that's because of HIPAA.
Okay. For
and
sure.
like some of the big hospitals have been sued for engaging in these practices.
Wow.
And now the smaller clinics are also being sued. And that's usually how it goes. It's like they'll start with like a big company and then it will start to trickle down. And that big company getting sued is like a warning for all the smaller ones to stop doing that thing.
Okay.
Fix the thing. Right. So, for example, we used to install what's called a pixels on the website. So anyone who visited the website got tracked by Meta.
Right.
And then we were able to deliver ads to them in Meta. We've all experienced this. We search for a product and suddenly we're seeing the ads everywhere. It's Google ads, it's Meta ads, it's all of it. And it's because of the tracking that was installed on the website. Can't do that in medical or even aesthetic medical.
Oh, wow.
Because people see it as a violation of privacy and they have proven this in court. Okay. So as beneficial as retargeting ads are,
yeah,
I don't even allow the pixel to be installed on the website, even if we're not using it because of the perception.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. That's one thing you've got to keep in mind there. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, I'm going to assume here that dermatology is really progressive and like they're kind of doing a lot in the marketing and advertising just because when you think about cosmetic and you think about discretionary spending, I think dermatology. Are there other specialties where you feel like they could learn something from dermatology and maybe be more aggressive in how they promote what they do? Like maybe there's a missed opportunity that maybe because they're gun shy and they feel like, oh, we shouldn't market that heavily. You know what I mean? Like, are doctors reticent about being more aggressive on advertising and marketing, you think, than they need to be?
The ones that I've seen that are the most hesitant, and it's because they've been burned a lot because they're not familiar with terms of service, are gynecology and gynecologic surgery practices. And it's not even about like the example that we just discussed where some staff members did something offensive that was not approved and would not have been approved. It's just basic marketing and usually advertising as well. And, I actually gave a talk on this at the AMSPA show years ago, discussing, how difficult it is to pay advertising, certain procedures because of how the platform perceives them. But that there's ways around it if you know how to talk about it, where to send people. The messaging needs to be precise and careful.
Okay. I'm starting to draw some conclusions about what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's like certain procedures, there are many different benefits. And if you just kind of zero in on a couple that are, more health and less sexual health, you have better outcomes in terms of having your ads be permitted on the platform and not having your ad account shut down, not having your Facebook page shut down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I've run into quite a few gynecology practices and it's frustrating because it isn't what the platform is saying it is, because of course they don't actually know what they're talking about. Platforms, they don't know, they're not doctors.
Yeah.
But it's challenging, but it's possible because we've done it. Okay. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, that would, I could go down a whole rabbit hole of patriarchy and different standards, I think, based on the gender.
I have stories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, these
Frustrating
things are
ones,
important
yes.
to, yeah, that's an interesting point I had never thought about. Awesome. Well, I really think that I suspect that medical providers tend to be more reticent probably than they should be to get the word out and aggressively market. And I think that's a great service that you provide for that community. And I've definitely learned a few things here. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about how you can help their clinical business with marketing?
We are at totalsocialsolutions.com. They just fill out the contact form there. They come directly to me and others, but me.
Okay.
And we can set up an initial phone call, learn more about the business, what their needs are, what their goals are, and discuss what's working, what's not working, and come up with a plan to execute on in order to help them reach their goals.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'll put a link to your website in the show notes. And yeah, Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here with me, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. And thank you for your patience with my technical issues today. I'm sorry.
It happens to all of us. Awesome. Well, that brings this episode of Eye Care Leadership Live to a conclusion. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and share it with someone who would value the content. I promise to bring you more guests and content to help make you a better eye care clinical leader. I also invite you to subscribe to my HR newsletter for eye care leaders. You can find information about that at seasoned-advice.com. Now go out there and lead with confidence.